The Circadian World in the Footsteps of Taiga Maya. Written and directed by Thierry Van Roy. With the voice of Woody Young. On the 21st of December 2012, the Earth collided with an asteroid and tilted a quarter turn on its axis, moving the North Pole to the equator. A small village in Yakutia, eastern Siberia, woke up to a scorching sun frozen at its zenith, while, on the other side of the world, on the edge of the darkened southern hemisphere, Anton Sakhalin and his Mayan companions fled a dark and icy Mexico in search of the missing sun. After 7 years of wandering through a devastated world, the two communities met at the Bering Strait and found Bering-Or, a future city where everything had to be reinvented, even the darkness. The year now is 2042. Taiga Maya, Anton's granddaughter, has gathered together the last archives from the world before the collision, the one now known as the Circadian World, to create a fresco that tells the story of this old world, where day still followed night through music, images, and stories. Bering-Or, 2042, 30 years after the collision. Those who try to leave can't. They stopped traveling long ago. In any case, the roads don't go anywhere. Other people may still exist somewhere. Once traces of them were seen. People also thought they heard the humming of a propeller. Their colony is far from everything, lost in the bottom of the Bering Strait, now dry. They use what is still functioning from the Circadian world. Some computers collected here and there, a truck when they could find gasoline for it. She wants to keep working on a film, but the machine gurgles more and more strangely. Anton Sakhalin, her grandfather, has rescued on hard disks pieces from life as it was before. And by a miracle, all those pieces survived the disaster and made it to that Friday's long march. Now, Taiga Maya has based her headquarters in the wreck of a submarine, where she can keep watch on the children playing in the trees. The story relates the trials and tribulations of Anton and his wife Yatzil. Taiga Maya is the daughter of Sem, the elder son of Anton. With all the things Taiga Maya has found in Anton's archives, she is editing a film about life in the Circadian world, the world before 2012. By chance, one of the Yakuts, an amateur filmmaker, had brought with him all his videotapes, including images of reindeer breeders and hunters, frozen lakes under the sunlight, people dressed in fleur in bright daylight, all of whom worship the sun. The children must see how life was before, she thinks, how it will never be again. It will take 3 lunar years to write the scenario, preview the archives, and edit all the parts of this piece that will bear her name, Taiga Maya. Mel and Terry, both born in Bering-Or, have gone with her on this journey made up of the memory of Yakuts and Mayans. She asked them to help create a soundtrack by finding inspiration in the archives of those ancient traditions. Zinacantán, Mexico, June 2012. As he does every evening, Anton is observing the sky. At 2 a.m., he is still in his little observatory in the courtyard, with a creaky chair, a homemade telescope, and his head amidst the stars. This little village of the Chiapas, situated in the very heart of the Mayan region, is at the center of the zones controlled by the elusive subcommandant Marcos and his Zapatista rebels. Anton was born in Belarus. He started his career in Mirny, a Yakut city built around the deepest diamond mine in the world. His grandparents on his father's side originated in Minsk, the capital of Belarus. His grandfather was strangely named Vylord, which is an acronym of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, organizer of the workers' movement. Like many others, they had opted for these revolutionary given names right after 1917. A grandson of Bolsheviks in their first flowering, Anton could consider himself lucky to have escaped being given such multiple patriotic forenames, which were very trendy at the time. Anton's father, Nikita, worked as a bookbinder and writer. When Stalin came to power, Nikita quickly understood that it was becoming more and more dangerous to write anything at all, even poetry. All artistic disciplines were forced to follow the party line, and changes in what was considered official doctrine were unceasing. Very often, painters were obliged to change a monumental painting on the night before an exhibition, rubbing out a politician who had suddenly fallen from grace. Many talented writers, philosophers, and novelists had to resign themselves to writing only for children. It was less risky and full of benefit for the kids. Nikita was nearly obese and used to say that when he was a young boy, all children, including himself, were truly force-fed with fat at every meal. He remembered all those laborious meals, the endless nausea, all done to show the world how healthy children were in the paradise of the Soviets. That children were forbidden to run, to prevent them from losing weight. And despite the rationing of goods, Nikita always had trouble not stuffing himself. There was no way he could adopt the health regimes advised in the West, on pain of being accused of cosmopolitanism, which was fraught with heavy consequences. Finding things to be better abroad was seen very badly in the USSR and could result in compulsory redundancy, social downgrading, and loss of one's lodgings. Galina, Nikita's wife, was an agronomist and had been recruited in a plan to grow experimental vegetables. Civil servants in the Ministry of Agriculture imagined they might grow an ersatz Havea tree in the Belarusian steppes that would yield latex. As war was rumbling in Europe, Stalin craved rubber for the artillery. The tropical plant they chose needed a lot of heat and sunlight and could never adapt to the Belarusian climate. The ministry voted that if they did not succeed, everyone would be sent to Siberia. The experiment turned, without a doubt, into a big fiasco, and just before the war, Nikita's whole family was sent to work in a camp in Yakutia. They were allowed to return to Minsk in 1953, right after the death of Stalin, and Anton Nikitievich was born on the 1st of December of that same year. The Yakut city of Mirny is a concrete island in the middle of the Taïga. Skyscrapers have been jutting up all around the miner's crater like a circle of mushrooms. Mirny consisted of Russian people, diamonds, and money, nothing else. Anton was in charge of low-depth drillings there. Sent a few years later to Cuba for prospecting, he managed to enter the USA as a refugee and obtained his green card in exchange for some information about the mines in Yakutia, a region that had been hermetically sealed off from the world for centuries. Anton eventually got married in Mexico to Yatzil, a Mayan woman from Guatemala who he had come across on a prospecting trip. Amateur astronomers often make significant discoveries. Their long hours of observation and their passion for the stars often yield the discovery of numerous unknown celestial bodies, whereas professionals spend most of their time using computers or writing for journals. Like many enlightened amateurs, Anton had built his own telescope and polished its mirror himself. The poor street lighting in the area allowed an exceptional quality of observation, with no ambient light and no pollution. For a few years, he collaborated with the Near-Earth Object Watch, a network that monitors all celestial bodies that might be potentially dangerous for the Earth. There was very little information written about these bodies on forums on the internet. The meteor that exploded over Tunguska in 1908 has left clearly visible traces, but the Soviet information blackout never let this knowledge filter through. One can but wonder, did they even get scientific information at that time? Now, a more and more unstable political situation on Earth was turning people's minds towards the hope of a better world whose advent, according to the predictions of many cults or the warnings of scientists, would come after a major cleansing of the planet. The environmental problems were much more severe than the politicians and the media had announced, and tensions were rising everywhere. The human race, which is the last to have arrived on Earth, and also socially much less advanced than bees or ants, took chances with its own survival. Anton, like many others, thought that the whole of mankind was on the Titanic, but that some insisted on staying in first class. Anton lives peacefully in Zinnekanten. He has some savings and earns enough money to provide for his own family by writing scientific articles. He sees himself as a poet, a chronicler of the universe who never tires of observing Saturn, Orion, the Seven Sisters, whose star cluster is like a Christmas tree in his telescope. In his mind, he is the president of the FAEU, the Front Against the Expansion of the Universe, an organization of which he is the only member. This idea of fighting against the inescapable, the impossible, the unachievable reassures him. It is now the 21st of June 2012. It is 2 p.m. and Anton is coming back from the solstice celebration in Palenque, with his head full of sounds and colors. A warm wind sends toward him the far-off barking of a dog. Everyone at his home is asleep, and he is comfortably installed in his observatory. His passion is the near-Earth object, the celestial bodies whose orbit crosses the Earth's orbit. In 2004, an asteroid the size of the Queen Elizabeth II came very close to the Earth, and the scientists only noticed it 3 days afterward. Every week, new celestial bodies are being discovered, and Anton integrates them into his self-made software, which elaborates very complex algorithms that can compute the dangerous orbits. On this night, the sky is clear. Anton's mind wanders. He imagines scenario after scenario. What to do in case of a serious threat? Launch a nuclear rocket against the asteroid? That is the first solution that comes to mind. already seen in bad sci-fi novels and films, but radioactive debris would inevitably fall back to Earth, causing untold damage. On this night, for the first time, a red alarm signal flashes on the screen, meaning that the orbit of an asteroid is coming within the probable range of a collision with the Earth. By watching more closely, Anton understands very quickly that something of utmost importance is on its way, and that some kind of countdown had been started. He sees dizzying figures and curves stream in front of his eyes. The celestial body has known for millennia that it would crash into the Earth. It is written in the movement of the universe. There is nothing we can do to prevent it. This night of the 21st of June, 2012, will be the longest of his life. But what he does not know is that there will be a much longer one in the near future. He remains prostrate, mesmerized by the figures streaming on the screen, until the first light of dawn appears. Almost all the dangerous objects in the heavens are well known, even renowned. Any amateur or professional observer can spot a critical trajectory, but Anton's personal software has calculated that Nemesis, a huge asteroid whose orbit passes close to Earth, will be hit by a small comet. The collision of this comet with the asteroid will alter slightly the trajectory of Nemesis, and the asteroid will unfailingly crash into the Sea of Labrador, precisely between the tip of Greenland and Newfoundland. Jilinda, Northwest Yakutia, the 20th of September, 2012. Eleonora Pavlovna has just finished teaching her French class for the day in the little primary school of Jilinda. In Yakutia, French is the language used by those opposed to the reigning power, the language of the condemned, of conspirators. Confinement was brought to Siberia by banned aristocratic families who could hardly speak a word of Russian. Eleonora is going to meet her husband at 2 p.m. to move ice blocks. The first lake down below, next to the village, is reserved for cattle. Families take turns keeping holes in the ice clear before they freeze over again. The cutting of ice blocks from the lake is a mandatory task. When the purified water of the second lake gets frozen to a 20-centimeter thickness, people cut blocks from the ice and store them on the lake's shore. It is their only water reserve for the 9-month-long winter. A house is like a newborn baby. It can't be left alone. Eleonora never lets the fire in the stove go out. Otherwise, all the pipes and bottles would explode. They are very comfortable as long as the stove is fed. In a lean-to at the entrance to the house, goods are stored in winter at the outside temperature. Ice blocks, food, enormous frozen fish are as rigid as baseball bats. Eleonora cuts shavings off these fish to eat them raw with a bit of salt. Delicious. Harvesting of various berries is another seasonal task. As the only source of vitamins, they are included in many meals and homemade drinks. Here, above the polar circle, people have a serious lack of vitamins. There is little money left to buy what few vegetables are available, and many people lose their teeth prematurely. On the table, bread, reindeer meat and berry jam is served at every meal of the day, plus a wide range of dairy products. Sometimes apples are brought in by the few trucks that drive north. Since the advent of the market economy, those who could not adapt to the system became significantly impoverished. In Jilinda, as in many other villages, the men are often absent. They live for long periods of time in the forest, to hunt for food for their family, and to sell their leftovers in order to have some extra money. Reindeer provide them with fur for clothes. Caribou, stoat, and silver fox give a panache to their beautiful chapkas. This evening, a party is being held for Eleonora's birthday, with tripe made from a freshly slaughtered foal and sparkling wine. From Jalinda to Olenyok, the 10th of December 2012. At very low temperatures, Jalinda is caressed by the northern lights. These are like ghosts, large, glittering curtains, blowing and following the magnetic storms. When it is very cold, the northern lights touch the ground, making sparking sounds. This week, the children are excused from school. When the temperature reaches minus 52 degrees Celsius, parents are allowed to keep their children at home. At this temperature, no one lingers outside. No one is wandering about. Most people empty their cars of all fluids and leave the cars in hibernation until April. There is no question of feeding a wood stove in the garage for the whole winter, just for the sake of the car. In every Yakut family, the management of water is an exact science. People are curiously thriftier about water than in the driest village of the Atacama Desert. The drinkable ice is chopped at the lake, then stored in blocks in family cellars dug in the permafrost. In a well-heated house, people melt ice blocks in a barrel, according to their everyday needs. This water is used for washing and cooking, and when it gets dirty, it does not end up in the sewer. The all-pervasive permafrost does not allow for pipes to be placed in the ground. Instead, this greasy water that they are careful not to spill by mixing with any detergent is designated for the cattle. Formerly kept together on a collective farm, cattle were apportioned to each family after the collapse of communism. Now everyone has their own little cowshed with their 3 cows, but also a lot of problems that did not exist before privatization. People have to be around at all times to quickly remove the cow's dung from the ground before it freezes and becomes too hard to gather. These terribly low temperatures require a close link between man and nature. The knowledge of natural cycles is a question of survival. Eleonora has an appointment in Olenyok to see her friend Konstantina, a doctor who graduated from Moscow University. She came back 30 years ago to practice in her homeland. The road from Jalinda to Olenyok is long and bumpy, but Eleonora is used to it and does not complain. Inside the car, the temperature does not exceed 0 degrees, and the 18-hour journey on frozen rivers is extremely uncomfortable. On the rough road sculpted by wheel ruts, the ride is so shaky that passengers have to tie themselves to the seat with a rope or with their own scarf. Leaving the Kwanamka River, the car reaches another, larger river, actually the road between the south and the diamond mine state up north, near the Arctic Ocean. The car stops at the lone shelter, 10 hours away from any village. There is a single large room with a huge wooden stove, 6 beds, 1 table, and a sink. Eleonora won't stay overnight in this makeshift dormitory. It is mainly a resting place for exhausted truck drivers shuttling between Yakutsk, the capital, and the mine estate. Most of the drivers are Russians from Kyrgyzstan, the Ukraine, and from all those ancient Soviet republics where life has become very difficult. The drivers are compensated for this Spartan existence with a high salary with which they can feed their families at home. They talk about their life, their families, and tell her that they like the Taïga, its loneliness and beauty. Some take to the road again after drinking a liter of vodka, but apart from swerving in the snow or falling asleep, they do not risk much. The driver of the car is keeping his Kalashnikov on hand, because there are many traces around of wild reindeer, and one reindeer is worth a great deal of money on the market of Yakutsk. The driver is an Evenk, a member of an ethnic group expelled and driven to the north a few centuries ago by the Yakuts, who originated in the Baikal region. After unscrewing the cover of the car's dome light, the driver fills it once again with vodka and proposes a glass of vodka to Eleonora, who refuses. She begins to wonder, if he carries on his drinking, will they arrive in Olenyok in time? They leave the river to drive now on a rutted road. 100 meters further, there is a sacred tree. The travelers passing by hang various kinds of objects on it as an offering. For example, balloons or pieces of fabric. In every cleft in the bark, coins or cigarettes are squeezed. Eleonora offers a section of apple, and the driver leaves half a bottle of vodka at the bottom of the tree to thank the spirits or to ask them for protection. At 5 in the morning, the car leaves the road. The driver has fallen asleep after drinking a dozen glasses of vodka. The car is stuck in 1 meter of snow, impossible to move. They are forced to wait for a passing car. How long? 1 hour? 1 day? 1 week? Eleonora explodes with anger. She is about to miss her appointment with Konstantina. After a 3-hour wait in the cold, a huge truck passing by pulls the car back on the road with a winch. The temperature is minus 45 degrees. It's about time they were moving on. Thanks for listening to The Circadian World in the Footsteps of Taiga Maya. Part 1. Written and directed by Thierry Van Roy, with the voice of Woody Young. Music composed by Thierry Van Roy. Lyrics by Melanie Gabriel.
With these hands, my hands, our hands, we kill our loved ones for this land, lying still on this ground, my ground, our ground, we spill our fears, here we go against our will.
Oh, kunde mördas.